Hello, this is Angela with Progress Permaculture. I am sitting in the front yard of my Portland, Oregon permaculture garden. We're in zone 8B and it is mid-October, and I thought I would take a few minutes and show you what I'm doing in the garden today. Now, when I talk about planting a permaculture garden, one of the big cautionary bits of wisdom that I like to stress repeatedly is to set realistic expectations. Not only realistic expectations of what the garden can produce for you, but realistic expectations about how much time you are able to give to the garden. Not just the planting, the weeding, the pruning, etc., but the harvesting and processing. And for me, October is a month where I kind of think like the garden is winding down, things are getting easier, and it's kind of a month of things getting quieter in my life. That's what I think it's going to be like, but that never turns out to be true. October tends to be one of the busiest months of the year. It's my husband's birthday and one of my kids' birthdays this month. There's obviously Halloween. There is a lot of kind of catch up for an unschooling family in many ways, because September still feels very summery here. And so as a family, we're trying to be outdoors, we're trying to be at the river, we're trying to go on hikes, we're trying to soak up as much as we can of any sunny weather. Because in Oregon, where I am in Oregon, it rains about 9 months of the year. So for our family, when my kids were littler, we used to call September PE month, kind of tongue in cheek because we don't do PE, but as if to say like we are outside moving our bodies, enjoying the outdoors. And that means there's indoor things and around the garden things and paperwork things that need to be caught up on in October. So always a really, really busy month. And so when I set expectations about what commitment I can give to the garden this month, I'm not really looking at pruning because it's too early for winter pruning. I'm not really looking at planting anything. I am not really looking at weeding. I kind of let weeds go a little bit this month. And then in November, I do a lot of weeding and mulching and kind of tidying up and spiffing up the garden for winter. My October chores tend to be harvesting and processing. And so I want to plant crops that I have time to pick and either process myself or put out in the farm stand and share or put on Buy Nothing. And that's really important when planting your garden. If I've planted too much, then I will have a lot of waste, right? That's a lot of lost yield. Or I will feel harried and stressed and rushed in an attempt to cram in all of the harvesting that needs to get done. And permaculture should be about sustainable living. It should be about having abundance and enjoyment of our garden. It should not be a source of tremendous stress. It should not be something that we are feeling tremendously pressured and we're feeling like we have to wedge it in those tiny little fractions of the day, and that every spare moment is filled up with catching up in the garden. It should not be that way. Permaculture should be about reducing our labor and increasing our yield. And so for me, I don't want to have an additional mental labor of anxiety about things that are being left undone or food that is being wasted in the garden. So for me in October, big harvests tend to be the very, very end of the pawpaws, quince. There are late apples, not very many, but a little bit of late apples. There is late grapes, which is like Concord grapes mostly. And there are persimmons. Those are kind of my big ones. There's also some sea berries, and there's still Cape gooseberries. There's still tomatillos. There are a few other things here and there, but the things that take a lot of time. But let's talk about persimmons because that's what I'm picking today. I was actually, let me show you here. I was picking a bag of quince for my neighbor. I'm going to go take her some quince, and they just smell, they smell so good. Okay, I was picking quince for my neighbor. Gonna go walk a bag of them down to her and drop them off on her porch. And I was like, I bet she might like some persimmons too. And up here in the front yard, my Nikita's Gift persimmons have done incredibly well, and they are starting to ripen. They are at a stage where you can pick them and set them on the counter and wait for them to turn soft. So I thought I would show you a little bit and talk about them, because I've talked about Nikita's Gift in the past, last year, and I think I was a little bit of a Debbie Downer, and my outlook has changed. So let me talk about them. Let me put this quince away first. Okay, Nikita's Gift. This is a pretty dwarf persimmon. It's quite small. You can see here's my front step. It's right outside my front door. There is a native currant in between, and then I have some gravel, so there's nothing right up against my house. It's starting to have the leaves change color. It is a really lovely little tree. And last year I talked about it. It is a hybrid persimmon, a hybrid between an American persimmon and an Asian persimmon. It should be hardier. The fruit has a little bit stronger flavor. I find that Asian persimmons are sometimes cloyingly sweet without sufficient complexity. And American persimmons have a great flavor profile, but they're small, the trees are large, and they are very astringent. So Nikita's Gift is what we would call a semi-astringent. I don't like to eat it until it's really soft, and it's really good for cooking. Last year, I told you all that I lost more than 90% of my crop, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I had all of these green persimmons, and they all dropped, and I thought, is the tree stressed? Am I looking at parthenocarpic, fruit drop here? What is happening? And so I had originally talked at my Nikita's Gift because the first couple of years I got not a huge crop, but the persimmons were really tasty. And then last year I had this complete loss of the crop. And so I told you all then, I'm not sure how I feel about this. This year, this tree is absolutely loaded. I pruned it in the fall because it was getting a little out of control, and it has yielded just gobs of fruit. Some of the branches are bowed pretty heavily, and I want to make sure that none of them break. I actually had a quince branch break in the backyard because it was too heavy with fruit. Persimmon branches tend to be pretty flexible when they're young, so breakage is not as much of a concern, but I just want to make sure that if it's time to pick, I should be picking, especially if it's going to rain quite a bit or be windy. I don't want broken branches. So this tree has produced super well for me this year, and I'm very, very pleased. So I want to show you what that looks like. I'm going to pick some for my neighbor and I pick some for me. Again, I don't like them firm. They are semi-astringent, and so they really are not great to eat when they're crisp like an apple, like a early fuyu would be. They're really something you want to let get a little bit softer. And two ways that I really enjoy Nikita's Gift persimmons are let them get really soft and jelly-like, scoop the pulp out and freeze it, and then later in the winter I use it for bundt cakes and quick breads and things like that. Really, really good. Anywhere you might have applesauce in a recipe, use persimmons instead. And you might want to cut the sugar back just a little bit. The other way I really love to eat these is that I let them get soft on the counter and then I freeze them whole. My friend Jan gave me that tip. If you had frozen persimmons, it's like eating frozen brown sugar with all kinds of notes of caramel and spice, and really good. I don't really like frozen Asian persimmons, but this one is good. It's much more complex flavor, and I really enjoy it. So let me show you real quick. Got a lap full of persimmons and more on the ground, but I thought I'd show you a few things. See these black spots here? It's not mold, these are called sugar spots, and the more black spots you have on the outside of the skin, usually the better. This is a scar where it rubbed on the branch. But a few little black spots, especially if they're around the top and they kind of cascade down the sides of the persimmon, those aren't bad things. It's fine. The belief is that it makes it a sweeter fruit, but there's no science to that, I don't think. But I did want to show you, so again, these are smaller than your average Fuyu or other commercial persimmon varieties because it is a hybrid. So an American persimmon can often be, that much smaller. And when you pick an American persimmon, you need it really soft, like a bag of jelly, or it will suck all of the saliva out of your mouth. So really dark red or even brownish color. And I thought I would show you one of these persimmons that's really ripe and is like that. I actually split it picking it. It's so ripe. It's deep orangey in color and it feels like a gummy bear or a bag with jelly in it. It is very, very soft. It has that deep color. Here's the color comparison here. You pick these Nikita's Gift semi-astringent or fully astringent persimmons of any variety. You can pick them at this stage, but you can't eat them at this stage. Leave them on your kitchen counter until they turn soft like this. And then you can freeze them. I haven't tried drying these persimmons. I live in such a wet climate that I haven't really tried drying them, but I know that folks do dry persimmons. I much prefer them soft like this, pureed, and freeze them. Just the jelly inside, not the skin, or when they get really soft, to freeze them and then eat them like sorbet in the winter, like brown sugar sorbet. So that's a little look at Nikita's Gift. Doing really well for me. That is the work that I'm getting done today. Picking this whole tree, I think, is not going to happen today. I think I'm going to pick it over a succession of a week or two. The fruit hangs on a really long time. So I'm going to pick what I need, pick some to share, put some in the farm stand, and then do a second and maybe even third round of that. Don't forget to check out last year's persimmon video, where my daughters and I taste tested several varieties of persimmons and talked about them. And I will be back really soon. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.